Have you ever been so focused on finding a quick fix for your credit score that you kind of miss the bigger picture? We're all hunting for that one little trick. But today, we're going to talk about why building great credit is less about a single hack and way more about building solid, sustainable financial habits. And this whole story starts with a really fascinating, high-stakes problem somebody posted online.
So it all kicks off with this post from a Reddit user, and wow, what a situation to be in. They say they have a great history of on-time payments, but their score is just stuck in the 650s. And the reason? A whopping 99% credit utilization. I mean, they're using pretty much every single dollar of credit they have.
So what's the game plan here? Well, it's a bold one. I'll give them that. They're going to call one of their lenders and basically demand they increase a tiny $500 limit all the way up to $3,000. And if the lender says no, they're threatening to just cancel the card. The logic is that a higher limit would make their utilization percentage just plummet instantly.
And that really brings us to the heart of the matter. Is this a brilliant, savvy move? Or is it a super risky gamble that could totally backfire and maybe even make things worse? To figure that out, we really have to understand the core of the problem itself.
So before we can even judge the plan, we need to really get a handle on the problem. And it all boils down to one single, incredibly powerful number: your credit utilization. It's actually a pretty simple formula, but it has this huge impact. You just take the total balances on all your credit cards and divide that number by your total credit limits. The result is your utilization ratio, and in our Reddit user's case, it's at that sky-high 99%. And here is why that percentage is such a big deal. According to FICO, the whole amounts owed category, which is basically all about utilization, makes up a full 30% of your entire credit score. That is the second biggest piece of the pie, right behind making your payments on time. So a score in the 650s lands you squarely in the fair category. Now, it's not poor, but it's definitely not good either. Think of it like getting a C on your financial report card. This means you're probably going to face higher interest rates, and you might have a tougher time getting approved for the best loans and cards. It's an expensive place to be, for sure.
Okay, so with the stakes this high, let's circle back and really analyze this quick fix. Can our user actually strong-arm their way into a better credit score?
Now, in theory, asking for a credit limit increase can be a really smart move. The pros are obvious, right? Your utilization ratio goes down, you have more spending power, and your score can definitely get a nice boost. But, and this is a big but, there's a catch. When you ask for that increase, the lender usually does what's called a hard inquiry on your credit report.
And that hard pull isn't exactly harmless. According to Bankrate, it can ding your score by a few points, just temporarily. But that inquiry itself stays visible on your report for 2 whole years. And if you get too many of those, it can make you look, well, a little desperate for credit.
So here's the crucial point. Context is everything. For somebody with low balances, a little hard inquiry is a small price to pay. But for someone already at 99% utilization, walking into a bank and saying, "Hey, my cards are totally maxed out, can you please give me more credit?" that sends up a massive red flag. As other folks on that Reddit thread pointed out, it makes you look like a horribly risky borrower. The bank is way more likely to say no, and you're just left with a hard inquiry and nothing to show for it.
But this is where the story gets really interesting. The user was totally focused on the math, trying to manipulate a percentage, but the real aha moment came from another person on the thread, who pointed out that it's not really about the numbers, it's about your behavior.
This one comment just changes everything. A user named Brutal Body Shots chimed in and said, look, it's not about the utilization percentage at any given moment. What lenders really care about is your long-term habits. The real question is, are you a transactor or are you a revolver?
So what do those terms mean? Well, a revolver is someone who carries their credit card balances from one month to the next. They're literally revolving their debt. Lenders see this as a higher risk. A transactor, on the other hand, uses their card for transactions and then pays the statement balance in full every single month. They are seen as responsible, low-risk customers. The ultimate goal here is to be a transactor.
And this brings us to one of the biggest myths in all of personal finance, the idea that you have to carry a small balance to build your score. Let me be clear, that is completely false. As Experian points out, paying your balance in full is always the better move. You save a ton of money on interest, and you prove that you have those responsible habits of a transactor. Okay, so if the gamble doesn't work and the real key is behavior, what's the actual path forward here? Well, it's not a shortcut. It's about building healthy, sustainable habits over time.
The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau actually lays out a really simple, powerful roadmap. First, pay every single bill on time. That is the absolute foundation. Next, you got to work on lowering your balances to get some breathing room from your credit limit. Then, build that transactor habit by aiming to pay your balance in full each month. It's also super important to avoid applying for a bunch of new credit all at once. And finally, you should regularly check your reports for any errors that could be dragging your score down.
So, as you're working on paying down that debt, what's a good target to aim for? The universal rule of thumb from pretty much all the experts is to keep your overall utilization below 30%. Once you cross that line, your score can really start to take a hit.
And hey, if you want to play in the big leagues, if you're aiming for an exceptional credit score, we're talking 800 and above, the goal is even lower. The pros keep their utilization under 10%. It basically shows lenders that you have plenty of credit available, but you don't actually need to use it.
The really good news in all of this is that it's totally achievable. Your credit score is not some permanent grade you're stuck with forever. It's a living, breathing number that just reflects your current habits. By shifting your focus from these quick hacks to just consistent, healthy behaviors, you absolutely can improve your credit.
All right, let's bring it all home. The number one thing to remember is that your behavior is what truly matters, so focus on becoming a transactor. And before you even think about asking for more credit, get aggressive about paying down the debt you already have. And finally, please remember that when it comes to your credit, there really are no shortcuts, just sustainable habits that you build over time.
And that really leaves us with one last crucial question you should ask yourself. When you use your credit cards, are you strategically building a positive financial history for your future? Or are you just juggling debt from one month to the next? The answer to that question, well, that's the difference between a lifetime of financial opportunity and a constant struggle.